I didn't notice her at first. That was the kind of place it was, half-lit, full of people looking down at their own tables, not around. A neighborhood bar with wood paneling too dark to be fashionable, always smelling faintly of coffee no one ordered. I came because it was quiet. I could bring a book, or my laptop, and nobody asked if I wanted another drink unless my glass was empty. That night I was halfway through rereading the same sentence when I caught the sound of her voice. "Lo, careful. Just a glass of red," she told the bartender. Then, after a pause, a small laugh. "Actually, make it something stronger." When I looked up, she was already watching the shelves, her hand brushing the stem of the wine glass that hadn't even been filled yet. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and didn't care. I tried to go back to my book, but the words kept blurring. I told myself I wasn't staring. I was just noticing. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear like she'd done it 1,000 times. The way she sat alone but with the kind of posture that suggested she wasn't waiting for anyone. The bartender slid her a glass of whiskey. She lifted it, considered it, then set it down without drinking. I felt my throat tighten, though I didn't know why. My phone buzzed. A friend had sent a picture from some crowded house party, everyone grinning with drinks raised. I typed half a reply, deleted it, and slipped the phone back in my pocket. I didn't mean to get involved. I wasn't even sure I wanted to. But when she finally looked my way, it wasn't casual. Her eyes rested just a beat too long, like she'd seen me there before. Maybe she had. I came here often enough. "You always drink the same thing?" she asked suddenly. Her voice carried just enough for me to hear across the space. I glanced down at my glass, the half-finished beer I ordered without thinking. "Guess I'm predictable." She smiled, not in a teasing way. More like she understood something. "Predictable isn't bad," she said. Then, softer, "It's rare." The bartender looked between us like he just realized we weren't strangers. He moved off without a word. I folded the napkin under my glass, pressing the crease flat with my thumb. It was a nervous habit, one I thought I'd grown out of. She noticed. Her eyes flicked to my hand, then back to my face. Not a comment, just registering. The silence stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. More like the pause before a thought. Finally, she lifted her whiskey, took the smallest sip, and set it down again. "You ever want something stronger?" she asked. The way she said it, I couldn't tell if she meant the drink or something else. I hesitated, words catching in my throat. All I managed was, "Sometimes." She tilted her head, as if that was answer enough. Then she turned back to her glass. Conversation closed. I sat there longer than I meant to, pretending to read, watching the clock tick past midnight. When I finally gathered my things, I felt the weight of her presence even without looking. At the door, I heard her voice again, low, almost private. "Good night." It wasn't directed at the room. Just me. On the walk home, I kept my hands in my pockets, replaying the sound of it. I unlocked my apartment, set my keys on the counter, and saw the glow of my phone. One new message. Unknown number. "Next time, don't leave so early." I didn't remember giving her my number. And that was when I realized I couldn't stop smiling. The text sat on my phone for hours before I replied. 3 drafts, all deleted. In the end, I sent nothing more than, "Maybe I'll stay longer next time." She didn't answer. Not that night, not the next day. But when I walked into the bar again, she was already there. Same seat. Whiskey untouched. "You made it past midnight this time," she said. I sat beside her, though I usually kept to my corner. The closeness startled me, how natural it felt, like slipping into a routine I didn't know I wanted. She ordered tea this time, which felt strange in a place like this. I copied her without thinking. 2 mugs appeared, steam curling between us. "My husband used to say I could never finish a cup of tea before it went cold," she said suddenly. She didn't look at me when she said it. He wasn't wrong. I waited, not sure what to say. The word husband hung in the air, heavy but not bitter. Sorry, she added, with the faintest smile. That was a long time ago. I only nodded. I thought about asking what happened, but something told me not to. Instead, I watched the way her hands cupped the mug, how her thumb traced the rim like it was muscle memory. The silence stretched. I filled it with a question that slipped out before I could stop it. You live nearby? Upstairs, she said. 2 floors above you. I blinked. You knew? She laughed, quiet, almost embarrassed. I've seen you in the laundry room. Headphones in. Never said a word. I tried to picture it. Me, folding shirts with earbuds in, pretending not to notice anyone. And her, already there. Something about that thought unsettled me. Or maybe it was the ease with which she admitted it. You must think I started. Predictable? She finished for me. Her eyes softened. I don't mind predictable. But that word didn't feel right anymore. Not when her knee brushed mine under the bar, just barely, like it might have been an accident. Not when I found myself imagining how it would look if someone walked in and saw us here, together. My phone buzzed on the counter. A group chat, friends asking if I was coming out tonight. I turned it face down. She noticed. Her gaze lingered on the phone, then lifted to me. You should go, she said. I'd rather stay. Her lips parted, as if to respond, but she only shook her head and blew on her tea. We drank in silence. The noise of the bar felt muffled, distant, like the world had stepped back to let something else happen. When we finally stood, she slipped her coat on slowly. Outside, the night air was sharp, carrying the faint smell of rain. At the corner where we should have gone separate ways, she reached out, just a small thing, fingertips brushing the sleeve of my jacket. A touch so light it could have been nothing. But I felt it long after she let go. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. After that night on the corner, we didn't meet for a week. Not by choice. I think we both circled the idea, waiting for the other to move first. My routine slipped. I lingered in the laundry room longer than needed, walked slower past her mailbox. Nothing. Then, Friday evening, I walked into the bar and froze. She was already there, but not alone. A man sat across from her, older, maybe late 50s. He leaned in too close, smiling like he belonged. She wasn't smiling back. Just polite, her hands wrapped tightly around her glass. I almost turned around. But she saw me. Her eyes shifted, flicked, and for the briefest second, relief. Hey, she said like I'd been expected. She gestured to the seat beside her. The man looked me over, amused. Your son? She didn't flinch, but her jaw tightened. Neighbor, she said simply. Then softer. Friend. That word. I sat down before I thought about it, heat rising to my face. The man chuckled, muttered something about enjoying her company, and left not long after. His perfume lingered, sharp, expensive. Either of us spoke until he was gone. Then she exhaled, long and shaky. He doesn't matter, she said. Not to me, or maybe to herself. I nodded, unsure. My hand brushed the edge of her napkin, folded into uneven squares. I wanted to smooth it out, but stopped halfway. You okay? I asked. She hesitated. I should be. Then, after a pause, you shouldn't have to see that. Her voice cracked, not from tears, but from something tighter, control slipping. She took a sip of her drink. We let silence cover us, broken only by the clink of glasses behind the bar. I thought about texting you, I admitted quietly. Didn't know if I should. She looked at me then. Really looked. Her eyes searching for something I couldn't name. And if you had? I'd have come sooner, I said before I could stop myself. The words hung there, too heavy, too bare. She turned her gaze away, down at the table. Her hand brushed against mine, by accident. I don't know. But neither of us moved for a second. Then the bartender dropped off the check, breaking the spell. She pulled her hand back quickly, almost too quickly. I can't. She started, then stopped. Shook her head. It's complicated. I wanted to ask, complicated how? Age? Neighbors? The fact that someone else still thought he had a claim on her? But I didn't. I only sat there, heart beating too fast, every word caught in my throat. When we left, the air was heavy with the promise of rain. She walked beside me, quiet. At the corner, like before, we slowed, either ready to part. She looked at me then. Too close. Her breath visible in the cold. My hand half lifted, almost to her cheek. Almost. She didn't step back. Didn't move forward either. Just held my eyes, as if asking me not to. And I didn't. Not yet. The rain finally came 2 nights later. Not a storm, just the steady kind that soaks through everything if you stand still long enough. I found her outside the building, under the awning, coat pulled tight, watching the street blur. You walk in this? I asked. She glanced at me, half smiling. I like the sound. We stood side by side, listening. Cars hissed past, headlights smeared by water. The silence wasn't awkward, not at first. But then she spoke, so quietly I almost missed it. He texted me again. I didn't need to ask who. You going to see him? She shook her head. No. But it doesn't stop the... She broke off, pressed her lips together. It's easier to pretend it doesn't matter. I felt something twist inside me. Jealousy, maybe? Or just the thought of her carrying weight she didn't deserve. I wanted to say, you don't need him, you have me. But that would have been too much. Too clear. Instead, I shoved my hands deeper into my pockets. Do you? Do I what? Pretend it doesn't matter. Her laugh was soft, humorless. Every day. We didn't look at each other after that. The rain filled the gap. I imagined reaching for her hand, imagine how it might feel, warm against the cold. But I didn't move. She sighed. You're young. You don't want to get tangled in this. I almost laughed, because if she only knew how tangled I already was. But the words caught. What if I don't care? That got her attention. She turned, eyes sharp, searching. You should care. I can't, I said. Too fast. Too raw. Her shoulders stiffened. I thought she'd end it there, retreat back into the wall she always kept up. But instead she leaned against the brick, tilting her head back like she was tired of carrying it all. When I was your age, she said slowly, I thought love would make me feel light. Like running downhill. It didn't. It felt like drowning in warm water. Beautiful, but terrifying. And I stayed under too long. Her voice wavered, then steadied. She looked at me. I don't want to pull you under with me. I couldn't look away. The streetlight carved her face in half, shadow and gold. My heart thudded so loud I wondered if she heard it. I don't think you could, I whispered. Her lips parted, like she might answer. Or maybe like she almost wanted to close the space between us. The rain drummed harder on the awning. My hand twitched at my side, almost reaching, almost asking. And she didn't move away. The air between us tightened, like a held breath. One step. One gesture. That was all it would take. But she only asked, her voice breaking the silence like glass. What are we doing? And I had no answer. After that night in the rain, I expected to see her again. Same bar, same seat, same rhythm we'd been circling around. But days passed, then a week, and nothing. Her window stayed dark. No tea mugs on the balcony railing. No faint sound of footsteps overhead when I came home late. At first I told myself it was chance. Busy schedules. Bad timing. But by the second week, I knew it wasn't. When I finally saw her, it wasn't at the bar. It was outside the building, mid-morning, her arms full of grocery bags. She looked surprised, almost guilty, to see me. You've been... I started then stopped. Busy, she finished quickly, shifting the bags against her hip. My daughter's back from school. The word hit harder than I expected. Daughter. Not ex, not friend, not neighbor. Daughter. She must have seen it on my face, because she smiled, faint and practiced. She's staying a while. Which is good. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. I wanted to ask why she hadn't mentioned her before. Instead I said, "Need help with those?" She hesitated, then handed me one bag. Our fingers brushed, nothing more, and even that felt too much. Inside, her apartment was warmer than mine. Lived in. Books stacked unevenly, a cardigan tossed across the couch. I set the bag down and caught sight of a photo on the shelf, her with a younger girl, maybe 18, their arms linked. Both smiling wide. "She doesn't know you," she said quietly. "It's better if—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "Never mind." I wanted to argue, to say better for who? But the words stuck. Instead I lingered while she unpacked, watching the way her hands moved, deliberate, careful, like she was buying herself time. Finally she looked up. "You should go." It wasn't harsh. Just firm. Final. I left without protest. But that night, lying in bed, I typed out a message. "I don't care about what's complicated. I just want to see you." I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. The next evening I went to the bar. Her seat was empty. I waited an hour, then 2. No one came. The bartender gave me a look, not unkind. "She hasn't been in," he said. I nodded like it didn't matter. Like I wasn't already too far in to pull back. Walking home, the streets felt unfamiliar, like I'd taken the wrong turn somewhere and ended up in a version of my life I didn't recognize. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. When I reached my door, I hesitated, hand on the knob. For a second I almost climbed the extra 2 flights of stairs, almost knocked. But I didn't. I went inside alone. I didn't plan to see her again. I told myself she'd drawn a line, and I should respect it. But one evening, after another long day of doing nothing that mattered, I found myself climbing those extra 2 flights. Her door was half open, light spilling into the hall. I knocked anyway. She appeared, cardigan hanging off one shoulder, hair tied loosely. No makeup, no armor. Just her. "You shouldn't." She started, then stopped. Her eyes softened. "Come in." The apartment was quiet. A kettle whistled faintly on the stove, forgotten. She turned it off, poured water into 2 mugs without asking what I wanted. Chamomile. I could smell it. We sat at her kitchen table, steam rising between us. For a while neither of us spoke. Just the sound of spoons tapping, mugs shifting. The air was heavy with all the words we'd avoided. Finally she broke it. "She's gone. Back to campus." I nodded, unsure what to do with my hands. "I thought it would be easier when she left," she said, voice low. "But now it's just me. And I don't know what that means anymore." I stared at my tea. My throat ached with everything I hadn't said. "It doesn't have to be just you." Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, searching. "You don't know what you're offering." "Then tell me," I said, though my voice shook. Silence. She looked down at her mug, fingers tight around it. When she spoke, it was almost a whisper. "I'm not easy. I'm older. I have baggage you haven't even thought about." I leaned forward, elbows on the table. "I don't care." "You should." "But I don't," I said, firmer this time. I don't want to keep pretending this isn't real." The words hung there, heavier than the steam between us. My chest felt raw, exposed. Her lips parted, but no answer came. She set her mug down too hard, tea spilling over the rim. She pressed her palms flat on the table, breathing slow. "I'm scared," she said finally. It landed with more force than anything else she could have confessed. I swallowed. My hand moved across the table, stopping just short of hers. "Me too." The pause stretched. Then, carefully, cautiously, she turned her hand over, letting my fingers brush against her palm. Not holding. Just touching. Her eyes lifted to mine. No smile. No grand gesture. Just a softness I hadn't seen before. Okay, she whispered. That was all. But it felt like the choice had been made. It didn't happen all at once. There wasn't some sudden shift where everything made sense. It was smaller than that. Quieter. Mornings first. I'd catch her on the stairs when I was heading out, mug of black coffee in my hand, thermos of tea in hers. Sometimes we just nod, sometimes exchange a few words. By the third week, it turned into sitting on the bench outside the building, watching the street wake up together. 8:47 a.m. became our time. Not planned, not spoken, but we both started showing up then. She'd bring chamomile, even though she said it was too light for mornings. I joked that coffee suited me because it was bitter and fast. She'd smirk, shake her head, and take another sip. It wasn't romance, not in the movie sense. More like a routine that settled into place until it felt inevitable. She'd ask if I'd eaten. I'd fix the leaky faucet under her sink. We never said I love you, but I started noticing the little ways she kept me close. My jacket folded neatly on her chair, a second mug always waiting on the counter. There were still pauses. Days she'd go quiet, lost somewhere I couldn't follow. Nights I'd wonder if she was pulling away again. But she never shut the door. Not completely. And I learned to stop pushing, to let the silence mean something other than rejection. Once, sitting on that same rain-slicked bench, she admitted, I thought I was finished. That all the good parts of my life were already behind me. I didn't know what to say, so I just reached for her hand. She let me. That was enough. Months passed that way. Seasons shifted. The bar where we first noticed each other changed ownership. The shelves looked different, the bartender was new. But we still went sometimes, sat in the corner with tea instead of whiskey. Predictable, she'd tease. Rare, I'd remind her. Looking back, there was no single moment that sealed it. No kiss under the rain, no dramatic confession. Just a slow accumulation of mornings and evenings, of soft glances and folded napkins, until being with her felt less like a choice and more like breathing. Now, when I think of her, it isn't the first night at the bar that comes to mind. It's a morning on the bench, 8:47, the world already noisy around us, her shoulder brushing mine as she says nothing at all. And somehow, that silence feels like the loudest truth I've ever known. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?